one of the high-profile tennis players today with us, Mr. Wim Fissette. He has worked and produced some of the greatest tennis players in women's game, and he has immensely contributed to the sport. And all his contributions have simply given a new direction to tennis. And he has trained Grand Slam champions, including the likes of the legend Kim Clijsters, Angelique Kerber, Victoria Azarenka, Simona Halep, and Naomi Osaka, and many more. So, Wim, a warm welcome to our show, and thank you very much for your time. So, we at Essentially Sports, we cover almost 11 sports right now, and we started off in the year 2014. And we are a digital sports media house, and we cover tennis exclusively.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Thank you so much once again.
Well, yes, and thanks for having me. Thanks for all the kind words. I really appreciate it, and it's good to be at the show.
And how have you been all this while?
I'm doing good. I'm currently at home in Belgium, living the normal life with my family. 2 young kids. Currently still between jobs. So we stopped with Naomi in the middle of the summer in July, and now just waiting for, let's say, the right opportunity to go back on the tour with the right player.
So who is the right player? So when do we see you coaching in the near future, or for the Australian summer? Do we get to see you?
Probably not. I have been speaking to a few players in the past months, but nothing really, let's say, worked out for both. And what is the right player? I mean, I think there are different kind of players that I like, but the right player is definitely ambitious and ready to develop more. That doesn't matter what ranking, if it's top 5 in the world or top 50 in the world, but really ready to develop day by day. And is ambitious to maybe try to win Grand Slams.
So by looking at your resume, I could say like you have always chosen the correct players. You have always, let them to enjoy the pinnacle of their careers. So I think you know who is the right player.
I mean,
so
it's always
it's
always difficult to say. I think I'm super happy with my path until now. The last 12 years have been really exceptional, and I really like appreciate that, and I love the career I've had so far. And but every new player is also like a new start, and after speaking like a few times, you don't know what you're gonna get. So it's always you always have some question, and it's always surprising when you start a new partnership. But I'm definitely like ready for it, and I'm excited for the future, and excited who will come on my path as the next player.
All right. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. What motivated you to take up tennis coaching? What made you dive into tennis coaching and take it up as a career?
Yeah, well, it's a long story, but it starts with like tennis really being my absolute passion in my life. Since the first time I picked up my racket, I loved playing tennis, being on a tennis court, and I still do. Every day, every time I'm on a tennis court, I'm really happy. So that's the start, of course. But I was a solid player in Belgium. I tried a bit internationally. It didn't work out. It's definitely not easy. And to be honest, like I also didn't really believe in the path of becoming an international coach, because let's say nobody in Belgium has done it before, and it was just like, how do you get into that? So how do you get onto the tour? And so actually I started working in a company after I studied, and actually was coaching a little bit on the side to earn a little bit of extra money. But I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed like different levels of play, from not really beginners, but very young players, still like very good juniors. And there was this moment when there was in Belgium, a small WTA event in Belgium, and they were actually looking for hitting partners. And since it was in my hometown, I was like, okay, I would like to do that. Why not? And then is actually the moment that I met Kim Clijsters again, because actually when we were young, we practiced together for 3 years. So we met again, and I was her personal hitting partner for that week. And step by step, I was realizing, hey, this is actually a nice life, and to follow the tennis tour, to be on the tour. And then a little bit, step by step, sometimes I went to practice with her. And there was a moment then she took me on a tournament as a hitting partner, and that was really a moment where I felt like, hey, this could be really something for me. So I went, I went to develop myself as a coach. I did all the coach courses in Belgium, but also went to lots of international seminars. I probably read all the books at that time that were available. Just I wanted to be an expert, you know. If you do something, you have to do it the right way, and that's actually how step by step I grew into the coaching job.
So speaking about Kim Clijsters, she is a legend on the WTA Tour. Still she is, and both of you hail from the same country, your compatriots. And when you had that partnership with her, it was her second innings of her career.
Yeah.
She was coming back from her pregnancy, her diets, after delivering a kid and everything. And at the US Open 09, she was a wildcard entrant, and she beat Bartoli, Flipkins, Venus Williams, Serena Williams, and then finally Caroline Wozniacki in the finals. So can you tell us something about that magical moment? How did that happen?
Well, the magical moment happened actually about 8 months before, when she decided to come back, right? It was 8 months that we had the time. And it was also a moment where it was a complete new start, and where there was like from Kim 1.0 and to Kim 2.0, the new and better version of her. That's something that we created. And like with all the players I work with, everything starts with like with a good plan and a vision, like how are we going to be successful. And with Kim, it was definitely a little bit different than in her first career. We wanted to be like the more aggressive player, use her phenomenal ground strokes a little bit more, be less of a defensive player than she was in her first career. So we didn't want to see that super split everyone wanted to see, you know, on the court, her defensive forehand slice in a split. But we didn't want to see that anymore, because we want to see the dominant player on the baseline. And I think we just had the 7 months preparation were unbelievable. Like every day was such a pleasure and hard work, and with a very strong team. And then, of course, we had the first comeback tournament in Cincinnati, where she had to play number 12 in the world, and that was like Bartoli. And I remember just the night before, Kim had a lot of questions, like, am I still good enough? Can I still do it? And I told her, the way I see it, there's really nobody that is able to beat you when you're gonna be on your best. So you really have to believe in yourself. And I do believe you're the strongest player out there. And so the first match, she immediately wins against Bartoli in Cincinnati. And that was, of course, a big confidence boost. And she won a few matches after, also in Toronto. And then, of course, the US Open, that was, of course, her favorite tournament, the Grand Slam that she won before. But probably the toughest draw you can imagine. But on the other hand, that was also the purpose of her comeback. You know, she wanted to come back to beat the best players at the biggest stages. Yeah. So that was her goal. So that's where like she almost fulfill all her goals in one tournament. So it was incredible. It looked like she was never away. She was the best player out there, and it was a phenomenal team feeling there.
Mm-hmm. And US Open '09 was simply a surreal moment for tennis world indeed. Like, she entered the club of mothers with Grand Slam champions with Eva Gulagong and Margaret Court, and that's definitely a remarkable moment that took place. Also, not just US Open '09, both of you won altogether 3 hard court slams. Mm-hmm. So after achieving all this incredible feat, what is that one incredible moment that stands out with Kim Clijsters for you?
It's hard, but I still say that the US Open, the complete tournament '09. I mean, that's so special to come back after like giving birth and then have like the third tournament you play, which is like exception, like unbelievable. You're not seeded. You play all the best players in the world. Like it's just like perfection in execution, I would say. You know, like you get challenged in so many ways, and you just win the tournament. So that was really exceptional. And like you say, like she changed a lot for like WTA, because if you see now how many players out there with children on the tour, she showed the world that you can do it as a mother, and maybe you can come back stronger as a mother. And before that, because we're such a generation where everyone is physically so strong, where for sure there were doubts before, but she showed everyone you can do it as a mother. So that was like, I think she opened a lot of like, or she opened a lot of opportunities for a lot of players.
Speaking about tennis players as mothers, you coached another talented, incredible, and a ferocious player on tour who's a mother right now and a tennis player, Victoria Azarenka. With Victoria Azarenka, both of you lifted the Sunshine Double in the United States, which was, again, another incredible feat. I think after Steffi Graf, it was Azarenka who did it. And
Kim did it in 2005, but I was not. Okay. I was not there.
You were not there. Okay, Kim also did it in 2005. So how was it working with Vika for you?
Well, Vika was very special for me because first of all, before we start working together, like my wife was pregnant, and I honestly. I did not believe I could combine the family life with coaching on like the highest or the best players on the tour. And so when her agent called me, I told him, hey, like I would love to coach Vika. Like, she's a phenomenal player. I really believe in her, but it's not possible because my wife's going to give birth. I can't travel like all the weeks, and you know, it's just too difficult. And from the first moment, her agent and Vika herself, they told me that's absolutely no problem. And when you need to be at home for the family, you can be at home, but you're always welcome to bring the family, and it's gonna be great all together, and it's gonna work out. We'll make sure it's work out. So I was actually really positively surprised because I almost gave up my international career. And Vika really showed me that I can do it, and it was never a problem. It was always like really nice to have the family there when I was coaching her. But so that was of course a very important first step. But Vika was a fantastic player to coach because she's such a hard worker, and always has that unbelievable focus on the practice court. I wouldn't say the player that's always like fist pumping on a practice court. When she does something she was really working on, when she hits like the perfect return, and that's I would say that is Vika, like so focused training. We had a really good time. Like you say, the Sunshine Double was unbelievable. After that, of course, she was pregnant. and it was so nice working with her. That's why also in 2019 I went back to Vika, because I felt our story wasn't finished together. But yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't the best year, but still, like I really enjoyed that partnership.
So, as you said, like Vika is really hardworking. And what were the technical nuances that you developed in Vika's game? Because to me, Vika has one of the best backhands in the women's game for sure, and also in the tennis, like men's tennis and women's tennis. Her backhand is admired a lot. So, can you please highlight the technical nuances that you developed in Vika's game?
Well, the backhand is definitely maybe the best backhand on the women's tour. And as a coach, I learned a lot from Vika. So that's the interesting part. The backhand side, that was already also before my time. It was one of the best shots in women's tennis, and I learned a lot from it. How to develop it better, and how to like activate the right muscles. So I learned a lot from her and used it actually with other players I work with. That's the interesting part. But we definitely worked more on the serve. The serve before that was an issue. Not enough power on the first serve, and the second serve a little bit more unstable. So that was a very important point. And also we tried to make the forehand a little bit of a bigger weapon than in the past. And for me it was of course unfortunate that she was pregnant 2016, because she was for me like on the way to become number one. That year she won Brisbane quarterfinals, Australian Open, Sunshine Double she won. So she was almost like unbeatable, but of course things like that happen, and as a coach you you have to accept that, of course.
Another talented player that you coached, Simona Halep. Like under you, she made it to the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam for the very first time in her career, and it was in Melbourne. And later at the French Open, she was the finalist, and she was playing Maria Sharapova, and that final lasted for 3 long hours. And also, like few weeks later, she was there in the semifinals of Wimbledon. But presently, Halep, she's going through a tough time, a rocky road. She's traveling. Her personal life has taken a toll, and everything that is going around her. So do you have any consolation words for her? What would you like to tell her right now?
Well, I think personally her biggest problem right now is, of course, the doping, right? That she's suspended and can't play. The way I know Simona, like there's zero doubt that wasn't on purpose, or she never wanted to do that. So probably something happened, or like she maybe didn't check her drink the right way, or it's difficult to say, but I'm really certain she's an honest player, and she's definitely not a cheater, never cheated in matches or did something. So yeah, I just want to wish her, like, of course, a lot of strength, mental strength to stay tough in this difficult times. The world has enjoyed her tennis so much for the past, it's already 8-9 years at the top of women's tennis, and it's always a pleasure to see her fight and to see her play great tennis on the court. And I think everyone's looking forward to see her back on the tour, and especially all the Romanian fans all over the world.
Yeah. So I think definitely she'll come back. Like even in her game, if you see she's a set down, breakdown, she turns around the tables pretty quickly. So Halep is someone who never gives up. So yes, we wish her luck for her recovery.
She's a true fighter. Yes, she's a true fighter, and she will stay like that for sure.
Also, you were coaching Johanna Konta. While you were with her, she attained her career high rankings. She was Britain's #1 tennis player. She was getting a lot of media attention and immense pressure from all over the country. And also she was one of the biggest hope for a Grand Slam contenders from the UK. So how did you guys manage with the immense pressure, expectations from the British media?
Well, Johanna was one of the first players was traveling also a lot with a mental coach. So the working mentally was a very important part for her. It's something, she struggled with when she was young, like most of the junior players, and transitioning to the tour. So the mental part was super important for her to speak on a daily basis with an expert. And I'm sure like that really helped during that time, to stay in the moment, not to, I don't know, start dreaming or focus too much on everything what's going around, and the thousands or 10,000 of people watching from everywhere, and just focus on her tennis and on trying to win the matches day by day or match by match. So I think like when we were there, I still remember it quite well. We were in our team, I don't know, staying together and just focusing on what we needed to focus on, and that was like trying to beat the next opponent. And it was a phenomenal tournament. She played great matches, and the atmosphere of the fans was unbelievable. I still feel like it's very unfortunate she didn't play her best match against Venus. Otherwise, she could have done better, but it was still a fantastic tournament. But sorry, to be honest, like I did feel, because like during the tournament we're trying to stay inside our small bubble, but after I definitely felt there was like a lot of pressure, and the expectations was super high from the press and just on her. So after Wimbledon was a little bit more difficult to control that, and it was also, I feel, for every player, like going that far in a Grand Slam is an experience, and you need to learn how to deal with that. And for her, that was also definitely something new, and but she did well with that.
So speaking about the mental coaches, so like it helped Johanna Konta very well, and presently, if I'm not wrong, Iga Swiatek, Ons Jabeur, all of them have mental coaches on their team. So do you think in the near future, everybody on the tennis circuit will be traveling with a mental coach?
Not necessarily travel with someone, but have someone in the team. You know, like we have the team that travels. That's usually the coach, sometimes hitting partner, like physio. But you also have like people in your team that are not traveling. Like you have probably the doctor you always go to, or some other experts. And the mental coach is just part of a tennis team these days. I think that's really normal. Like you work you work physically hard, you work technically hard. I mean, it's also normal that you work mentally, and if you want to work mentally, you work with experts. So I do feel that's a normal thing to have. And when you see it in academies, big academies, they have like mental coaches. If you see federations where young players junior train, they all I think it's just part of top sport. Just like big managers also speak to some mental coaches that can help them stay in the right moment or stay in the right zone. So I do feel it's important.
So in few years down the line, I think everybody will be having, not necessarily traveling, but at least a personal mental doctor or a mental coach on their team.
For sure. Great. Yeah.
That's a big information that you have given us.
Well, yeah. I mean, it started with, I think 15 years ago. There were some players traveling with a physio, and it was already pretty special. And now it has become the new normal. And the last 2 years, like there have been a lot of people speaking about the mental health, and everyone realizes also it's just normal to speak to someone when you're on the highest level. There's so much challenges. There's so much pressure on you, expectations, and yeah, you can speak to your parents or to your friends or to your coach, but why not speak to an expert? So I think it's always, if you have the opportunity to work with experts, like you should do that.
Okay. So yeah, change is the only constant. So everything will be a normal in few years' time.
I think so,
So
yeah.
speaking about in the year 2018, Serena Williams, she was juggling between breastfeeding and professional tennis. And despite her maternity hiatus, within less than a year, she came back and she made it to the finals of Wimbledon. And you were also there during that Wimbledon final, but you were sitting in her opponent's box, which was Angelique Kerber. Kerber, that year, I remember she played fantastic tennis. She defeated the court in straight sets, I believe. And so, how was that entire Wimbledon for you? Like Wimbledon, definitely for a tennis fan, for a tennis player, winning Wimbledon is the highlight of their career. So, how was that special moment for you? And against Serena, who had previously won that title 7 times.
Yeah, starts with first of all the right plan and confidence, and I felt like I mean the whole year Angelique was playing really well. She played semis in Australia, and for her quarters, actually after a tough clay court season, clay court was not her specialty, absolutely not. But she made it to the quarters, and that was already like a very, very good start for her to have like to go into the grass court season with a lot of confidence. And she knew like grass court was her best surface. And we had a fantastic training week in Mallorca where she also played the tournament. And that was the level she was playing there. We could all see her like win Wimbledon there. So very important. And then we had one preparation tournament. It was in Birmingham, not in Birmingham, was in was on the grass in England. Eastbourne, yes. And Angelique was playing great, and she had to play Wozniacki, and Angelique had a match point. But what happened there, and that was typically something that could happen to Angelique, that she was very passive and more defensive, and then the match changed and she lost the match, where I believe that was a huge moment, because that was also the moment we could speak and say, okay, Angelique, that's not going to happen in Wimbledon, right? Like if you have the chance to win, you're going to take it in your own hands and you're going to play aggressive and you're going to try to win the point yourself. You're not going to wait for the opponent to make an error. Like when there is an opportunity, you're gonna be aggressive. Like let's make a deal. That's how we're gonna win Wimbledon. And I feel that's really how she won Wimbledon. It's to be honest, she didn't start good. I knew she was very confident she could win Wimbledon. She had a lot of pressure. So the first 2 matches were actually not good at all, until we had to play Osaka in the third round. And I remember talking to her, saying, Angelique, you have like one chance and you have to be like, she's going to expect you to just bring the balls back, but you have to be aggressive. If you're not going to be aggressive, you're not going to try to make the winners yourself, you have no chance. And that was like one of the best matches she played there. And from there on, I think she really kept her level. She was, very tough to beat. She was serving pretty well for her. Was never the best server, but she served well that tournament, and I think she played really, really well. And winning Wimbledon, it was her dream, but also my dream. I was in the final in 2012 with Lisicki, but this was a unique opportunity to beat Serena in the final. It was the complete package. Wimbledon final, you play Serena, the best player all time, and you win that match. That was phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to know. Like just by playing aggressive, attacking tennis, Angelique pulled off the Venus Rose water dish. Correct?
I like Angelique is known everyone for her like fighting
Mm,
and defensive skills. And I always said to her, like, that's your, if you want to play that tennis, that's going to bring you to the quarterfinals, but then it's over. The best Angelique, the Angelique that's going to win tournaments, that's going to be the aggressive Angelique. Because I always felt before I coached Angelique, I had to coach a few times against her. And every time she was really taking the initiative, she was offensive. That's always where she was the most dangerous. So that was really clear to me that that's the way she had to play. And yeah.
so, yeah. So after all your thriving achievements, working with all top-notch players, Grand Slam champions, you were there in so many Grand Slam finals, and then also WTA Tour championships. Also, you won with Kim Clijsters. After everything, all these big achievements, you joined hands with another established player who had multiple slams to her name, Naomi Osaka. So how did that alliance begin, and how did the icebreaker between you and Osaka look like?
Mm. Well, it was the season when I was with Victoria Azarenka, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, like Vika had some personal issues, and to be honest, at the end of the season, we didn't know where her life and her career was going. She had a lot of questions, so it was a little bit uncertain for me. And right at that time, I was contacted by Naomi's agent if I was available. So really an honest conversation I had with Vika and ask her what direction are you going, and because I have to make this decision, and we decided it was better for me to go with Naomi. Of course, there was also a unique opportunity from the potential. I don't think after Serena there has been such a player like Naomi. The potential is unreal. She has everything to be the best player in the world, and that was for me a huge opportunity to take, and so I started at the end of 19 with Naomi in Los Angeles. So it was really interesting. As you know, Naomi is especially at that time also she's not the most open person, but she's super kind and super nice. Like, of course, I didn't push her. It was more like, okay, let's step by step get to know each other. Her parents were around, and the rest of her team was around, and without forcing, just do the work, and again start with a clear plan. What are we going to work on? What are the goals for the next year? And yeah, just the day by day.
And ironically, you had to play against Vika twice after 10 months. So it was in Cincinnati, but unfortunately, Naomi had to withdraw from that big match. And then 2 weeks later in the US Open final, both of them played a spectacular match. So you were against Vika.
That was really tough
Mm,
because first of all,
mm,
yeah, I would have been very happy for Victoria because after the tough year she had, like to play a final was incredible. I was really happy for her. On the other side, it was also difficult for me
mm,
um, to coach against someone I know so well,
mm,
because Naomi is also, she's a player I like. She's got great intuition on the court. She understands the game well, but also I couldn't give her like too much information. So I have like all this information about Victoria Azarenka. I almost
mhm.
could predict every ball she would play. And then I
Ah,
have my player Naomi, who is who's a great, fantastic player, very intuitive, but I couldn't give her too much information. So I had to select, okay, what information do I give her?
mhm,
And still, after like watching the first, let's say, set and a half, I felt that I maybe overcoached her because she
okay.
was, I don't know,
She was struggling. Naomi was struggling.
She was struggling. She couldn't play free. I don't know. Vika was playing like very, very well. So it
Very well.
really took Naomi some time to really like play her best tennis, and I'm super happy she did that. Told me after the match, I did not overcoach her. I prepared her to the match like all the other matches. But of course, yeah, it was fantastic to win that US Open. Yeah, I mean, it was a tough time. Months we could not play with COVID, no tournaments. But also there we had for us, we had a lot of months the time to become a better player, to develop, and I think especially the first months that there was no tennis and I was in Belgium, I couldn't travel. For her also to have a few months without tennis, to clear the head and to really look for that motivation again. I think that really helped. And then the months we had to make her a better player, that was definitely the part of the success for that US Open.
I think it's a really difficult job when you are coaching someone. You become good friends with them ultimately, and you know each other in and out, your training tactics, their playing tactics and everything. And one fine day you need to play against them. And it's really difficult, like to contradict, each and every ball that they are playing. So I think your job is really tough.
It is tough, right? Because I mean, coaching is always, the strengths, the weakness of that opponent, the strengths, weakness of my player. Okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna focus on their weaknesses, maybe on our strengths? It's always, you have a lot of stats. It's you always have to think, what information are we gonna give the player? What does she need today? So it's The better you know your player, also the better you can help them. But it also depends a little bit from day to day. How much information are we going to give her today? So it's interesting. It's a fascinating job.
Fascinating job, yeah. So beginning of the year 2020 was really difficult for Naomi Osaka. She was the defending champion at the Australian Open, but she was knocked out in the third round by Coco Gauff. And 2 days later, Kobe Bryant passed away. It was a really tragical moment for the sporting community indeed. And that had affected Osaka immensely. Her performance it affected her on-court performance as well. But how did the entire team deal with that tragic incident?
It was difficult because like after Naomi lost early in the Australian Open, she flew home, and of course we wanted to give her a little bit of time for herself to regroup, and we were gonna see her like a week later at the Fed Cup in Spain, where Team Japan had to play Spain, and then the tragic accident happened. So it was a lot. It was very difficult. But then I think 4 or 5 days later, we saw her in Spain, and it was a really difficult moment because she was very emotional and she was going through probably the most difficult time in her life. That was clear. It's on the court, she could not really play well because she was just too emotional, but because of everything what happened, like we were as a team, we were really able to connect and to really start open conversations. So she expressed her feelings, and that was really because I started in December and that was February, so I didn't get to know her very well, and that was for myself a very important moment to really speak to her and open conversation, how she was feeling and how she was dealing with certain stuff, and how some things affected her, and I feel from on we were a true team, and we felt all free to speak to each other very openly. And It's
Yeah,
also, let's say,
mhm.
the moment she realized, because before she lost to Coco Gauff, or before that match, I felt there was like she had a lot of tension, but she couldn't really speak about it. So we were not able to get a really good conversation before that match. And after we had that week in Spain, it was definitely like very different. Like she was expressing her feelings before matches because she had trust in the team that we could help her, and that's if you don't speak about a problem, we can also can't help you solve the problem. So that's a start, and for that reason, it was a really good week for us. And
Yeah. I think with the tour going off right after she lost that Fed Cup match, I think she regrouped her well. Her team helped her to regroup her well, correct?
yes, very well. And I remember preparing for Indian Wells, and
Mm-hmm.
I was confident she was going to win Indian Wells because she
Mm-hmm.
was practicing so well and such intensity, so good focus. She really she regrouped, and she wanted to show the whole world that
Mm-hmm.
Naomi Osaka was still the best player in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and that was very unfortunate. Indian Wells didn't happen, but after that,
It got cancelled.
she continued with that attitude.
But ultimately, like in Cincinnati, she was there in the finals. Then again, 2 weeks later, she won the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Naomi is not just a great tennis player. She has also become a global icon right now. Even people who outside tennis, they recognize her as like she's one of the best tennis players from Asia. To you, like who is Naomi? What are her best qualities, and just as a human being, not as a tennis player?
Well, she's a great person, great heart.
Mm-hmm.
She's, I mean, a lot of people have watched her Netflix show. I think I do think it's real, but it's also like
Mm-hmm.
just one part of Naomi. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times a very very funny Naomi. Unfortunately, they didn't show that too much, but she's
Mm-hmm.
funny. She's happy. Um, Most of the time, not always like speaking about the tennis court, but also in her private life. So
Mm-hmm.
I see her like happy with her friends, with her family. Um, it was a real pleasure to work with her for about almost 3 years. Um, Always and always respectful to her team and the people around her, or to the people we meet. I don't know, who work in the hotel or we see on the street. Always takes time to make a photo with fans. It was never an issue. So a really kind girl, but also like a true champion. So that's always that's interesting mix. When on the court she was a real champion. She hated losing. She was really tough mentally, but in life she was just a very kind girl. Yeah, that's how I would describe her.
Mm-hmm. Great to hear about Naomi. So much information. So, speaking about the women's tour in general, the competition is rising day by day. We see new slam champions, new faces every slam. And a lot of people say like there is a lot of inconsistency in women's game, but on the contrary, we do hear people say there's a lot of competition, versatility, and depth in women's game. But what is your take on that?
Yeah, the depth has changed a lot the last 10 years. Like a top 50 player is not far away from a top 20 level, and on a good day, a top 50, and maybe not the perfect day for a top 20. It's almost the same level. So it's every round is like a final. I would say you have to be at your
Mm-hmm.
best, and those, let's say, 10 years ago, that was a bit different, but that has changed a lot. I do feel when we speak about Grand Slams and in men's tennis, you have the best of five, of course, and that changes a lot. If I'm certain if it would be best of three, you would also see a lot more upset than we see now. But because it's mentally complete different. If Djokovic loses the first set, there's absolutely no problem. The other one has to keep his phenomenal highest level ever for another two sets if he wants to beat Novak and Rafa and also Federer in his years. They just stayed very calm. Or they lose a second set, okay, they still have to win. And it's it's very different if you play best of three and you lose the first set, maybe you had a bad start. Well, if you don't play your best tennis immediately, it could be over. And that's a moment where you can get a bit nervous. Oh, like I lost the first set. Now I can't afford like a break or something like that. And it can be very quickly. So if it's best of three, like the consistency we have seen the past 20 years in men's tennis will for sure change a little. I don't know how much it will, but it will change. And in women's tennis, there's a lot of different Grand Slam champions, but I do feel that with the number one we have, like Iga, I feel like she will consistent and she will stay there for a few years. She's going to be very tough to beat. Still working on herself, developing, and she's hungry to become a better version of herself, to win a lot of Grand Slams. So I think we're going to see a little bit more consistency there in the next years.
So do you think Iga Swiatek will continue her consistency and she will become a game changer? Will she be associated with what the Williams sisters did, what Kim Clijsters did?
I think she is already a little bit of a game changer, and in fact the way she plays and the way athletic she is. Like I feel like we come from, first of all, the generation where there was a kind of a chess players, the old days, and then we had Steffi Graf and then Celis, and then we had of course the power generation with Serena and Venus and also Kim and other players. And I feel like then we had like the generation that's also like very, very athletic. But now it's like it's a lot of power. They're all super athletic, but it's also more variation into the game. We get the forehand slice defense, we get a good backhand slice, we get the net game as well. So it's more, I feel like it's all coming like together closer to men's tennis like than a few years back. So for me, Iga doesn't have the biggest serve yet. Maybe I think she's working on that. She will improve that. But like great ground strokes, super athletic, defensively super strong, offensive. She got a lot of variation. So for me, in that way, she's already like a little bit of a game changer.
So I think technology is also playing a role in that. Like you explained the evolution of the game. It was like a chess game before, and when Williams systems were dominating, it was more about power, and right now it's more about the technique and everything. So I think technology is playing its role in changing the game, with the tennis players evolving themselves, correct?
100%, yeah. Technology helps you also to, and helps the coach to develop the player. It's very clear in stats where the player needs to improve or can improve, and it's really helps the day-to-day coaching and development.
So speaking about your professional career, you have always been with female tennis players. Why didn't you train male professionals, or why did you choose ATP over WTA?
I love working with the women so much.
No, why is it like?
I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. Never really had the opportunity to work in men's tennis, to be honest. I would be interested, of course, to also work with some male players. I don't think it's a big difference. I mean, technically, it's the same sport, and tactically, it's more or less the same. So I do feel I could also be a coach on the ATP tour, but I don't know. I started on the WTA tour. I got opportunities WTA tour. People know me better at the WTA tour. So and to be honest, I've always enjoyed working with with females, and I don't see men's tennis as an upgrade for myself. If I can work with the best females in the world, I'm super happy and I really enjoy it. And I don't think working with a male would be a better job for me now.
So, if given a chance, whom would you like to coach on the men's side presently?
Probably someone like Alcaraz.
Alcaraz.
I mean, yeah. I would definitely also enjoy to watch the matches.
Yes.
No, but I mean, there's so many good young players also, like Felix or Holger Rune. Probably forgetting a lot of players, but I think it's a fantastic generation. Yeah.
Yeah. So nice to know that. And I have one last question for you. There are so many tennis enthusiasts out there in the world, and they are aiming to become a tennis coach, just like what you do. So what is that one piece of advice you would like to give those tennis enthusiasts and budding coaches?
Well, first of all, knowledge is power. So the more you know about your job, the more of an expert you can become. The more chances you have. It's really not easy to become a tour coach, to get that chance with an international player. But the more you put yourself also in a position, like working, maybe going to big academies where international like players or tour players come maybe in the preseason to prepare and they get to know you, I think that could be a good step, maybe first as a hitting partner, more into a coach, to get to know the tour, to learn from maybe older coaches or more experienced coaches. But I will always start with the base. The base is always knowledge. Know what you're talking about, know the tactics, know the technique, try to become technically the best you ever can. So many good books out there, so many good seminars, also online. So, and teach a lot of different levels so you can, help them to correct their technique and become better every day. And then, I would say like try to get a position somewhere in an international academy, a big academy where top players play, and then who knows, there's a window to get that dream job.
That's a great piece of advice. So thank you very much for your time during the festive season. I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you, you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Lovely talking to you. Bye.
Yeah, nice.